joining in. And welcome to Emerging Trends in the Art World Now, presented by Comm Collective. I'm Lisa McMahon, brand strategist within the art, interior design, and lifestyle industries. And I'm also a proud founding member of Comm Collective, which is a group of female communication professionals who came together during a time of crisis to present these types of authentic and constructive conversations to our art and design communities. And thank you again for everyone who's joined. Before we begin, I want to invite you to please post your questions in your chat box, and we will do our best to address them at the end of the panel. Today, we are extremely fortunate to have 4 art world doyens on our panel today. And such an underused word. Anyway, let me please introduce them in alphabetical order. First, we have Miss Rachel Elliott, and Rachel is the in-house art advisor with Uprise Art. And Uprise Art is an online gallery that represents original artwork by emerging artists across the nation and internationally. And Rachel works specifically with the trade community to source and curate artwork for their projects. And that includes interior designers who are a huge part of our Comm Collective audience. Welcome. Hi, Rachel. Thank you. Next, we have the brilliantly gifted artist, Lisa Hunt, who combines master screen printing techniques adorned with gold leaf to create really gorgeous works of art. And you can see some of that behind her. And Lisa explores the spatial and meditative relationships within repeat patterns. And in addition to her stunning body of artwork, Lisa also collaborated with Lori Weitzner on a really beautiful collection of textiles and wall coverings that launched this spring, and we'll speak to that later. Next, please meet Carolina Wheat-Nielsen, who works with Artfare as a curator, artist liaison, and exhibition designer. And Artfare provides services that allow artists to build a loyal and active base of patron collectors and enables patrons to access a carefully curated group of artists, artworks, and unique experiences that facilitate deeper connections with the artwork they buy. Something else we'll be talking about more. And Carolina also writes about art and culture, and her work has appeared in the New York Times, Hyperallergic, Fast Company, The Guardian, and myriad other important publications.
Well, my curatorial experience has appeared in those things. Let me not sound as if I've been writing the New York Times all my life.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate you being humble, but nonetheless, also impressive. So there. And last but certainly not least, we have the very talented Karen J. Revis, printmaker, painter, and paper maker. That's hard. Printmaker, painter, and paper maker extraordinaire.
3 times fast.
Karen creates really beautiful abstract works on paper with deep, rich, vibrant colors, as well as thought-provoking political art. And in addition to several upcoming exhibitions, which Karen will tell us about, Karen's work can currently be seen as a large outdoor mural in Manhattan's Lower East Side, which was created in partnership with the Black Artists and Designers Guild and Colossal Media. And we will talk more about those types of collaborations later as well. So today we are looking at what is trending in the art world from the unavoidable perspective that every industry has been impacted by our current global circumstances. And I think at the onset of the pandemic, art investors, buyers pulled back due to financial uncertainty and because galleries were closed and art fairs and other events were canceled. But on a positive note, the overall connection to art and design has dramatically increased. And that includes sales for both of our artists here today, as well as the galleries. So, I mean, everyone is spending more time at home, which has led to people moving, renovating, and at the very least redecorating. So I first want to talk about where people are buying art today, which is online. And that's not a new trend, but the fact that it is increasing is fascinating. So let's start with Rachel. What are sales looking like for Uprise now? And what does the gallery experience online look like?
I mean, I think for us, obviously with this summer, I think everyone kind of had this moment of, what are we doing? But since, Uprise has been an online gallery for a while, we kind of had, the structure in place to be able to continue talking to our artists, continue talking to our clients, check in with them. And so, things went on as normal, especially as people were at home and were hoping to maybe collect more, or, have their background Zooms, reflect who they are. For a gallery, I mean, at least for us, we work, the same way as a standard gallery does. We have artists from all over. We have exhibitions, we, go to art fairs, and then we have a small team that we work with, and we're working with, clients all the time. I kind of forget the second part of your question.
Well, and maybe that is a second part, which is actually how you are showing the work to buyers, which is, so fascinating. And I want to talk to Carolina about that as well. So I guess the first part was, how are your sales doing? Because from everything I'm reading and understand, there is a surge in, art sales and online art sales. And then how does that look for someone who is buying it?
Well, again, I think it's kind of similar to in person, even though a lot of the times people don't think that way. They're like, oh, it's online, it has to be really quick. But I think the goal is always to still be discovering things. So, curation almost becomes more important when you're just digital, because that's the only thing that you're able to show versus, in person, you kind of have that in-person connection. But I think online, you kind of want to stay away from becoming a marketplace or anything like that. You want it to be really curated and put together and have people, asking you questions. So I think for us and, online when we're, launching an artist or, we have a new preview of works, we're never trying to just show, everything at one time. And that can be overwhelming for somebody. It's, here's a little bit that we've put together for you to view. And if you have any questions, you can ask us. So I think the goal is to still remain, build relationships and remain authentic in that way. There's not an algorithm for finding the perfect piece.
Right.
So you still need the human connection.
Yes, right. And Carolina, how do you capture in a virtual space the nuances of artwork? I mean, that to me is so fascinating. There must be so much involved with lighting, and how do you capture the textures and the colors?
Well, at Artfare, as you mentioned, is a curated platform, and we look very carefully at the artist documentation. Certainly, as we serve as a conduit between the artist and the curator or collector, we're not so much a gallery as we are the vehicle, the app. It's not just an online thing where we provide the image that the artist provides to us. And that image can be, you can ask the artist for a higher res image if it doesn't show up in the app. We use part of the tool of the Artfare app is the augmented reality. And so you can have the image by Karen J. Revis and you can take a picture of your home or wherever you want to place the work and place the actual image in your space in an augmented way. And that I find to be as close as you can get to that personal viewing experience. Certainly because Artfare is a connection-based app, collectors or curators or art enthusiasts, other artists, ask for studio visits. So the artist is actually managing their own inventory in this application, and the artist can choose to allow at an agreeable time someone to come into the studio to discuss their work in person. And that's really what we're about. And we've done a handful of exhibitions. Certainly we've fallen by the wayside in the last 6 months, but we've been, working hard to facilitate that more personal connection, as Rachel had mentioned, in terms of viewing and space. But I think one thing that is really special about what's happening right now, as we are going to all these online viewing rooms and these infinite augmented reality, or like fairs that you have to walk through in virtual reality almost, is the fact that collectors and young collectors have become activists. They've become engaged in wanting to support artists. And when you hear something like art is not an essential business or an essential career, that upsets a lot of us, right brainers. And therefore, I think that there is a newfound hope in relationship to wanting to support an artist for works under $500, under $1,000. You can do it. Then you can make access to that artist directly. And last thing was that, we really worked hard during all of, our activism and the rightful protests of citizens and the civil duty that we have to donate all proceeds to certain, we've just been working really hard to get work in front of people, whether it's online or, in other avenues. So, and with curated sections and otherwise, I'm feeling very long-winded, but I think that you need to have good images first.
Yeah, well, I want to ask the artists about then, because I happen to know that both Lisa and Karen are involved with Artfare and Uprise, respectively. I say that in the right order. And so first, I want to know what the artists are doing also on their own, in addition to the work that their galleries are doing to share their work. How are you guys reaching people right now? Are you having virtual studio tours? Lisa, have you been showing people into your studio and showing them your work? Have you been selling that way directly?
I haven't done any virtual studio tours yet. I actually, let me stand corrected. I actually did one with Ian Marshall, who's the curator at Uprise. He reached out to check in to see, just a general check-in like he normally would do. And he's like, are you up for a Zoom studio visit? And I was like, sure. And it was great. I was able to, obviously have a chat, but then, show him work that was hanging and, kind of holding things up and showing sketches and works in progress. So that was great. And I felt it was really effective as a good check-in. And I thought about doing it, kind of offering it if somebody wanted to do a studio visit, offering a Zoom virtual studio tour. But I was going to say recently, in terms of like, how am I reaching collectors and people interested in my work. I get a lot of inquiries via email, and people say they saw my work online. I haven't really had a lot of people reaching out from Instagram. It's picked up recently, but it hasn't been.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah, it hasn't been a big kind of way for me to connect with people who are really ready to make the investment in purchasing.
Okay.
But I had a collector recently reach out via email, said she saw my work online, was interested in a painting. She lives in San Francisco, so we started a conversation. She was able to see the images I had online, but that was kind of it. And so it wasn't a small purchase, so she was wanting to maybe send a friend who lived in New York to come by, and I was like, that's great. We can social distance. I can have a mask on. I can have it sitting up, in our house so the person can view it. That didn't work out. So then we talked about doing a virtual kind of like meet and greet, and I could show her the painting. But ultimately she had a baby. So she was really busy, with dealing with the newborn. And so what I did is I made her a sample of the canvas. It was about yay big, like 9 by 10. Yeah,
God, that's nice.
Yeah, and I've actually done that before for commissions, for international commissions, so people can get a sense of. It's hard. It's hard to see things, and understand, especially with the gold leaf, how it's actually going to look in person. The painting that she just ended up purchasing it, which was great news.
Oh, super!
Yeah, it's a rather large painting, so again, big investment. And I asked her, I said, if you could take an image of where you think you want to have the painting in your house, I will do a Photoshop simulation. And I did that. And so all those things kind of helped, I think, secure the sale.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I know.
That literally
Artfare and
happened.
Uprise. You have some augmented reality competition happening, although she works with you guys. So. And Karen, you have had virtual tours, and I believe you've made sales that way.
I have.
Yeah. So talk.
Yeah, Instagram's been pretty good for me. I've grown my audience organically, like really slowly, but people do reach out to me on Instagram. If they reach out and they inquire about a piece and they kind of want to buy it right away, I always ask them to do a studio visit with me, a Zoom, which I would have never thought about pre-COVID. But the few studio visits that I have are awesome because I've actually changed their minds either into buying more or something else. They get to know about the process. They get to see my studio. They get to, you kind of have this wonderful relationship, which I really love with the person that's buying the work. So that's been great.
Well, I don't want to bounce around, but speaking of social media, I know as a brand strategist that particularly in the sea of content, out there right now, it's so important to authentically tell your story. I think Rachel mentioned that as well, in order to connect with the right audience and communities. So it's not even necessarily the number of followers, but it's about building long-term relationships and connecting with people with your story and the story of your art. And I know that Uprise and Artfare do that for you, and you're doing it for yourselves as well. So how do you do that? How do you really authentically tell the art story in order to connect with people? And I think everybody should, answer that honestly, because oftentimes people who are watching these panels want to understand how you guys are succeeding in the digital and social realms, because they want to be able to hopefully apply that to their own businesses. But so we'll go back to Rachel. Tell us about, what Uprise does in both of those social and digital realms. I know you talked already a little bit about the virtual experiences, but really telling the artist story and connecting with buyers.
Well, I think, our definitely like online, we have a whole journal section where we either, post about different projects we've worked on. Usually when an artist is launched, we have, an about them section, which, goes into, their favorite things, what inspires them when they work. We also try to do a lot of inside the studios. So it's kind of about having the most open dialogue. I think this is another really cool thing about online galleries, or the online world is, and I'm sure everyone has felt this, and viewers too, is when you go into an art gallery, I felt this as a person in the arts, you can be very intimidated even if you're going in and you're seeing a work in person. Maybe you're not asking questions or you're not learning as much about that artist, and so you move on to the next gallery. Whereas I think online, or inquiring, you're more willing to almost ask more questions. And so I think having those connections, we have people inquire every day, I want to learn more about this artist, or I want to know more about this process. And I think that doesn't happen as much in person because people maybe feel a little scared to do so, but then, they have somebody talking to them. So I'm an in-house art advisor. So I work with our roster of artists, so I'm I know everything about all of them, which is exciting and, you know, fun. And we also do, you know, almost everything. I shouldn't say that maybe. But the same with Carolina, you know, we take context images and we learn about the process, and we have, you know, all of those things on hand that we can share with a collector. So, you know, we can email them and then they can kind of think about it or look at these up close images. And I think that's super helpful.
Sorry, but do you find that, do you get a lot of outreach from your Instagram? I think we all agree that Instagram is probably the #1 social media platform for the art world, yeah? Yeah. So are you guys getting people coming to you from your Instagram to say, I want to learn more about this artist, Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time people will inquire that way. It's actually funny. A lot of the times it's through our website first. You know, if you're kind of looking at channels, people are just coming on and saying, hey, like, I love this piece of art. Like, I want to learn more. And we are usually pretty quick to respond. So, but yeah, I think Instagram too, you know, I think we try to have, our goal is to amplify whatever the artist's message is, which is a wonderful thing, to be able to tell somebody else's story. And so if we can tell that in the best way that we can, which is through, at least for me and with working for trade, it's through a lot of visuals and just sharing as much information as I can. You know, transparency, I think for artist and collector is key in this scenario. And again, that's something maybe you don't get as much in, you know, the older, more traditional gallery way, but online, everyone's kind of, you know, it's all about synergy. It's all about how we're working together, which again is just maybe my very positive romantic viewpoint of it, but that's how I see it. So.
Okay, cool. And Carolina, so how do you convey, how do you really get to know your artists and genuinely and authentically convey their story on their behalf, you know?
I mean, it's a twofold system with Artfare. When we began, we reached out to artists and we created a stable, as you would, of very established professional artists that were interested in a new non-gallery model. You know, it's fraught with resistance prior to COVID, where online experiences with art were poo-pooed. Honestly, I don't buy work from PDFs / internet / that's all out the window at this point. So, yeah, I mean, and just like Uprise, and we've been around for going on 2 years now, and as a fully functional platform, and you know, we've seen the changes. Yet to your point as to how we tell the artist's story, and we have artists coming in 2 different ways. We invite artists that we would very much like to work with, or artists submit work that we would like to work with. And as a little known fact, I was the director of admission at Parsons for 5 years, and I worked in higher education enrollment for the last 20. So writing applications or submission forms is kind of like my secret power. And so we ended up putting together a thorough submission format where we really got to know the artists and how they present themselves online, what are the platforms they've been using, what was successful for them, what wasn't, what's your statement, what's your work, 5 pieces, bio, CV, what are your shows. We went through the gamut of what typically you would look for, say, if you're a curator and you're going out there and you want to show someone with this theme. But we really were just looking for professional artists that had already had solo exhibitions, that were working towards more, you know, had a fervent studio practice. And that was really what was setting us apart. And as we learn more about those practices, you know, I have 2 colleagues that are curators as well, Kelly Schreer and Daniela Holben, and we have an assistant curator, Rihanna Gideon. They're all just amazing art advisors, curators, you know, coming from a nice little history themselves. And we talk about who we feel fits the platform, or, you know, we sometimes disagree. And therefore, a lot of the stories that we're doing the research on how that artist is presenting themselves, but also helping some of these artists, maybe holding the hand, I don't want to sound pejorative, but really assisting with some of the nomenclature where you can move yourself outside of art speak and how you do tell your story in the most authentic way. And that sometimes is really the pitch, right? How do you sell yourself? Why do you want someone to come to your show to review, you know, the exhibition?
Right.
We're trying to add, well, value added content for our community of artists, where we bring on folks that have written about art, or we bring on folks that are, like, for instance, we had Jerry Gagosian for only, you know, the meme, the ruthless meme maker, for only our art.
Oh, we've frozen up for a
webinar,
minute.
and she was just talking about.
I'm gonna go over to Karen for a moment, and because I feel like part of what's happening in this current scenario is that the artists are experiencing more control of their own brands, if you will. And traditionally, primarily, you know, the galleries, whether online or brick and mortar, were the ones who were pretty much the ones only dealing directly with the buyers. And so now, and even more so now, because of what we're talking about with all of this online connection and ability to take people into your studios, do you find that, I mean, you still need to work with your galleries, of course, because they do something different, but are you, you know, finding that yourselves empowered as artists right now, and able to feel confident to make some of those connections on your own?
Yeah,
Lisa,
I mean,
Karen,
one thing. Oh, was it me?
No, I did say you first.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say that I like the idea of demystifying who an artist is and what an artist does, because so many people don't know what goes on in a studio. And often when you're with a brick and mortar gallery, they don't really talk about who you are. You don't get to control your narrative and what you want people to know about you. So yes, I can bring people in my studio, show them my process, show them good things, bad things, things that are working, how my press works. A lot of artists also follow me, and we share tips on Instagram, which is kind of cool. So I kind of like having a voice, because I felt like I didn't have a voice before. So I like having a voice.
Good. And Lisa, you also share on your Instagram. I've been seeing you sharing your techniques, and it is so cool to see the behind the scenes of an artist making their art. I mean, it is just, and it does, when you see the process, because, you know, oftentimes people are like, oh, I could do that, you know. But when you see really what goes into making art, it's like, wow, it makes you kind of appreciate it, or me appreciate it even more. So yeah, Lisa, do you feel that has increased your audience by them being able to see what really happens?
You know, I'm gonna say yes. In general, for me, Instagram, social media, it's tricky for me. I'll be, you know, and 100% honest. It's not something that I love all the time. I kind of have moments when I'm fully engaged and I'm posting all the time and, you know, loving it. And then I have moments when I need to pull back. It can be overwhelming to me. Visually, it can be overstimulating. If I'm trying to kind of get in my own head and develop new work, I don't want to see too much of other stuff. So there's that. But I am taking making a more concerted effort to really, you know, use Instagram as a way, like you said, to not just engage the the followers that I have, but to grow the audience. And like Karen was saying, I feel like I've grown organically. And the people, you know, that kind of started following me when I first kind of started posting are still there, and still we're having conversations, you know, when I am posting things. And then I'm getting a lot of new people as well, and trying to engage them as much as I can. I do find sometimes I'll think of something to post. I'll find something in the studio. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, I want to post this. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to say? And then I'm like, okay, well, let me write it out first. And then I think of the hashtags, what makes it a hashtag. And then I'm like, forget it. Like, I just don't want to do it. But like I said, I am trying to be more proactive about.
I've watched your following grow. I love your Instagram.
Thank you. And I get feedback from other people saying, oh, your Instagram is so great. And, I think, and like a lot of things in life, sometimes we feel more insecure about, ourselves than maybe what other people have an impression of us. So when I see other people, I'm like, oh my God, your Instagram is great too. And they're like, no, my Instagram is not as good as yours. So I think there's a lot of that happens. I do look at a lot of other artists, just kind of see, how they're kind of, what types of things they're posting, and to just kind of keep up on what they're doing. And then, in terms of, Instagram being a tool for sales for me, like I said, it for a long time it really wasn't that, and starting to get more inquiries for sales directly through Instagram. Not quite sure why now more than other times, but
because of the times, because people are, that is what's trending. People are wanting art and making their homes more beautiful and joyful and personal, and everything is, virtual, digital, social media. So this is an upside of all of the turmoil and tragedy and upheaval that we've been experiencing as a planet. The other thing is, I know that you guys are both, and this is a little bit off, but additional revenue streams for artists. I happen to know that Karen, during the last 6 months, again, I think because people's eyes are more on, that realm, you've been approached by several companies about potential licensing arrangements. So, and that happened in this last 6 months, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, it has, yeah. And it was something that I've always wanted to do, but had absolutely no idea how to get into it. And a lot of it is thanks to the Bad Guild. But yeah, artists can parlay their careers into many places, and they did not teach me that in school.
No, did they teach you that, Lisa?
No. I studied graphic design and had a career in magazine publishing before I started being a full-time artist. So, and they didn't teach the business side of any of the art fields. And that's a huge mistake, because the business side of what we do is it's almost a majority of kind of what I do. Even it's just the admin of what I do. But I think Karen, you were saying that you would always wanted to do some licensing. It's something that I had looked at kind of from the beginning, because I have an interest in textiles, and my work is inspired by textiles. So I kind of always felt like I wanted to, dip a toe or a few toes or a whole foot into that world, in addition to, pursuing my art full time. So, I was fortunate to be approached by Lori Weitzner, who's a textile artist, to do a collaboration with her that launched earlier this year. And it's a great experience. And, I look forward to some other things. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. If
Thank you.
Anyone watching, you must check it out, because it's really stunning. And So that has increased to a degree, which is another positive experience. And also, you mentioned the Black Artists and Designers Guild, which I know that both Lisa and Karen are members of, and which we have to give a shout out to the founder, the fierce, fabulous Mulaney
Yes.
Barnett, who is so she's so amazing because she's very generous in that she gives you all opportunities, you know, as part of her foundation or organization rather that she started. And you know, for other artists who are watching, tell them about the importance of being part of those kinds of organizations, you know, and attaching, because I feel like, if I may, that artists, you know, already kind of work in quarantine in a way, right? Because it's such an insular experience. So the importance of connecting via these organizations, and
it's huge. I mean, it's really huge. And I feel like Artfare is you guys provide the same thing, but you know, so I wanted to get into licensing and I wanted to do these different things, but I had no idea how to do it. And so I'm with a guild where I have mentors and other artists who are willing to tell me everything about how to do it. And on the other side, Artfare, you guys had a panel the other day, and the woman gave us a kit list, a press kit list. And I'm like, you know, galleries don't do that. Like, where do you get that? So I have all these resources now to do things that I had no idea, you know, were at my disposal.
Yeah, so it's really
I mean, it's so valuable.
And I just want to mention that Karen, Artfare is her gallery. So I don't know, you know, Rachel, do you guys also offer those sorts of opportunities for your clients, your artists?
Yeah, I think, you know, anytime we launch an artist, we kind of give them as many resources as we can. And throughout this time, especially, I think we were looking to, you know, our goal is always to make sure our artists are happy and they're, you know, succeeding, you know, emerging artists. The goal is to get them to keep moving, you know, on and try different things. And I think, Carolina, you kind of said something about this earlier, but, you know, there's quality artwork at any price point. And I think another cool thing, this may be diverging a little bit, but the other cool thing about working with a lot of different artists is that there is this huge range in medium or trying different things. And, you know, we've done a few print projects with a few of our artists with, you know, printers in Brooklyn and, you know, throughout. And it's kind of just offering something new, or, you know, if they're usually making, you know, large paintings, but then they're making a print for the first time, that's not even, you know, just cool for the artist because they're working in a different medium, but it's cool maybe for the collector because they're like, oh, I couldn't afford this, you know, $5,000 piece, but I can definitely get, you know, still be a collector of this artist for this $500, you know, print that's been framed. So I think being able to do all of those different things, again, is something kind of unique to being online or being digital or being able to work with a lot of different artists, maybe because you don't have that, you know, traditional exhibition, 2 exhibitions a year. You get to work with a lot of different artists on a lot of different projects. So that's kind of, I guess something else. But I would say, in short, yes, we're always trying to.
Of course, yes.
Teach.
So another thing that's been happening, unfortunately, these past months has been the uprise of and awareness of certain injustices, horrible. But we're not going to get political. I really want to talk about it from the perspective of Black Lives Matter and what you guys are seeing in terms of your sales. Are you seeing a surge in the sale of art created by Black artists? Carolina?
Yeah, exponentially.
Yeah.
Yes, and when I referenced the collector as activists, I think that if people have money and they want to throw down, I recently bought a handful of prints from Sea in Black, and it was beautiful photography, all by Black artists, and all proceeds went to Black Lives Matter New York, or someplace else I could request, and whether it's a Southern Poverty Law Center or very
Bail fund.
ACLU, I mean, bail fund. Yeah, and we, at least at Artfare, we're on it just days after the killing and murder of George Floyd in June, and yet it feels late to me. However, at least it's here.
All
And
right.
we're really talking about it, and at least it's more people are understanding their own assimilation within the systemic racism of this country, and it's an eye-opening experience for folks to all of a sudden be like, I gotta buy Black art. I don't want to be crass, but it's like trending. And if you're looking at your wall as a white collector, as any kind of collector, and you're like, oh damn, I better catch up, there's a problem with equity. And yet, that's a very long-winded answer. I get extremely
No, that's a good one. That's a good answer, actually. And I think that I'm guessing you're experiencing the same thing at Uprise. Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that we kind of talked about as being in, the world of art, and it's been entrenched with elitism for a very long time. And I think if, we're progressive and we're in our gallery that, we're online and we represent a lot of different artists, we need to be progressive and in different ways. And again, I think it comes down to, education and being diverse and representing, the people that are out there who are creating the artwork and who are collecting the artwork, and that's everybody. So I think that's always a goal, is to be open and very diverse. Yeah.
And I think Carolina's right. I mean, it does feel late, but on the flip side, I think we're all grateful that it's happening. And I do feel that, we all have a responsibility to keep it happen. Like that it does, as you said, it is trending, and, we don't want it to just be a passing trend.
You know what else though? This is a great,
yes, Karen.
This is a great time too for the artist to be in contact with the buyer. Mm-hmm. Because especially for my work, that speaks to a Black life and a Black story. It's been wonderful to really, as an artist, you're in your studio, you're making your work by yourself. You kind of want to know where it's going, and you do kind of want to talk about it. And what better than somebody to be really interested and have really a love for what you're doing. That's been great. That's
I also join in on that.
Yeah, please.
We'll say something about, I think for me, certainly in the last, few months, there's been a lot more inquiries and attention. And, I was on a lot of list of 10 artists and, makers you need to know now, African-American Black artists and makers, which brought a lot of attention to me and a lot of inquiries. And it was so quick. It happened so quickly after George Floyd's murder. And, for me emotionally, it was a lot to kind of take in, while simultaneously taking in what was happening out on the streets and in the world. And I'm still haven't quite caught up to it. So, it's a good thing ultimately, but it's also, kind of like the price to have that attention is something that I'm still, kind of grappling with. And it has started to, kind of inform some of the work that I'm wanting to do now, and how I'm approaching the work. So just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there was one thing I'd like to just bring up, a real quick caveat about that Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud at Christie's. There was a really interesting article, ArtNet, I believe, or Art Market Monitor, that talked about Destiny's curatorial agreements with Christie's auction house, and how because of this disingenuous you may be feeling, and also a lot of pressure, all of a sudden the attention comes straight on. There was this curator, Destiny Ross Sutton, I believe her name is. She, I believe it was about 25 artists. One of the artists I was working with, Zikwe Mohammed, and I learned that there was a clause in the purchase agreement for all of the clients that were buying the work that basically said, you give us 5 years, you can't flip this without first right of refusal. And I think that that is a new trend that's happening. Yeah. And to stay on task and topic, it's really important for a curator and for an artist that feels any disingenuousness. And thank you so much, Karen, for acknowledging how important it is to meeting your collectors, meeting your curator without that liaison of the gallery. Galleries can be great and they can speak for you. However, there's a new movement in ensuring that an artist gets that market value without it going up so quickly that the artists themselves lose those proceeds and lose the cash.
That's a cool trend. Thank you. Let's talk about so the future. No real way to predict this, but the future of the brick and mortar gallery. I know we were speaking earlier, and that Carolina is looking for a space to open her own, I guess you've had one before, and to open again another brick and mortar gallery. So we're hopeful that, they'll still exist in the
Still
future.
exist. We have a pop-up right now in Newburgh, New York, but we had a space for 4 years. That was a permanent space for 4 years, and prior to that we had a space in Chicago. But yeah, we're still looking, and I think the value of installing exhibitions is paramount to accessibility for all.
Good news.
Yeah, I would think that the relationship with the gallery and the artist is what's going to change the most, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and being that the artist is more in control now.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I think about a gallery, I think of more of a partnership, but also that you're not like baby in the corner in the back making the art.
Yeah.
Out in the front taking the money. I feel like artists will have more of a say.
And what about exclusivity? What do we forecast? Traditionally, that was a big thing, right, with galleries and their artists. I feel like that could be something that changes now as well.
That's pretty old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm already.
I mean, like Karen said, I think it's about.
There's so many free agents out there now. I mean, I barely can even work with artists without them being like, I'm not exclusive.
Okay. All right. Because I know some galleries still demand that. So what about art fairs and events? We were talking about that there are these virtual art fairs and things happening. I think
I will say about the virtual events. I've been able to see so much art and attend so many industry events that I never would have been able to before, just because I can't be in all those different places at different times. So I have learned to appreciate that in the last couple months. That wow, I can go and check out scope and go through and see. I can go back. I can go back more than once or twice and kind of take it all away.
And the technology is pretty good.
Yeah, it's
that's what I was going to say. Do you feel like you're getting a real representation of the art by doing that?
I don't think it takes place. It doesn't replace being able to go see art in person. Nothing will ever take the place of that. I'd always want to have that option to do that. My husband and I are thinking about going up to Mass Mocha. And so we were on their website, kind of looking at what their, kind of protocol is for, social distancing, et cetera. So still always want to be doing that. But, in absence of being able to fully go and see all the things we want to do, it's been pretty cool for me. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Lisa, I agree. I'm based in Chicago, and NADA has their Chicago gallery open next weekend, which is cool because it's kind of this in between, this online, this offline. I know a lot of galleries, like maybe you have to make an appointment, but I'm like, okay, maybe I could go to a few, on the Saturday, on the Friday during my work, week, I can listen to this conversation with an artist that I wouldn't have been able to do. So It is nice because I know some of those things existed, but they weren't as much as they are now. And it's cool to, again, it's kind of, democratizing the art. Well, anyone can go, and you're, at any time, you don't have to fly to Miami to be able to be a part of it. You can just be a part of it. So I think that's a really cool thing.
That is cool. And I wonder if moving forward, these fairs will continue to offer, even when they're open and you can go, if they're still going to continue to offer that virtual component.
I think they get a wider audience.
Yeah. The exposure is like incredible. And like Lisa, you were saying, with Instagram, you met a collector that's in California, and that, I think, it's always great to see artwork, but I work with people who are based all over. And I think that's really cool to make connections with, oh my gosh, this person loved, this artist in New York that we represent. And like, maybe they would have never seen it, but now they've had that opportunity to see it. So I always think that's really cool, making those long distance, connections like that.
That is super cool. And the one thing, and I can't believe it, we're almost running out of time. One thing I wanted to ask is about how you all work with interior designers, because as I said, Comm Collective, we also speak to the interior design industry. And so have you been continuing, first the artists, Lisa, have you been working, I know that you've done a lot of commission for interior designers in the past. Are you continuing to communicate with interior designers to create work for their clients?
Absolutely. That's ongoing and growing, which is a good thing. I work with art consultants as well. And that's also something that's growing a lot too. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't think we're not even going to be able to get to the art consultant conversation. And Rachel, your main role, I believe, at Uprise is to work directly with the trade, and that being interior designers. And how's that business? I mean, have you seen any kind of waning or surge in interior designers seeking art for their clients?
Honestly, in the last few years since I started with Uprise, I feel like I've seen more and more interior designers. I feel like people don't, see that as much, but they are a huge, part of collecting artwork. And I love to help them. They're always looking for different projects, different sizes. A lot of it can be site-specific work or commission. And, that's just my role is really about making the designer's job easier and making the artist's job easier. So if I can do both of those things and kind of connect them, that's always the end goal. So, yeah.
And are you doing that a lot? Carolina, yes, Carolina, what would you like to add to that? I got a little note from Carolina here.
Someone had asked, can you send a link to Artfare's website? And
okay. I thought you wanted to add. I thought you were saying, I want to add to the
so I was like, oh.
Okay. I guess we should look at the questions. That's a whole nother conversation I think we're going to have is specifically about the relationship between the artist and the interior designer and what that looks like. So let us see. We do, yes, someone asked for the link. So you know what, guys, with regards to the links to all of our panelists' websites and Instagram accounts. That's all on the Comm Collective site. So you can go there. And you also on Instagram, on Comm Collective, it's attached to the invite for today's panel. So there's that. And then, someone says, oh, Paula says, this is so great. I'm an interior designer and I met Lisa through Lori Weitzner. This is wonderful. Yeah, people want to hear more about a conversation specifically about interior designers, artists, and art consultants. We couldn't get it all in an hour.
Next time.
We're gonna part deux, to be continued. I guess we just have a few minutes left. So Lisa, any predictions? Since we said trends and trajectories, it's okay if you don't.
Predictions?
I don't know, things that you see happening in 2021 or hope to see happening in the art world.
Can I go last?
Yes.
Okay. No, I don't have any. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I have any predictions for the art. I think, obviously the landscape has changed drastically in the last 6 months. It'll be interesting to see how it does, shift for the artists, brick and mortar sales, all of those things. And I definitely do try to keep up, read as much as I can about that part of the art world and, what I do, and try to keep myself educated just to kind of see what's what. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
You know what? And that's a hard question. Nobody knows the answer. And I just
I had to answer.
I'm sorry.
I think Caroline and Rachel and Karen should answer that question.
Wait,
we've run out of time.
Something even more important before we go. I do want to ask the artist, what's in the works? If you have anything to tell the viewers about. I know, Lisa, that you had mentioned that you are working on a new collection and you're hoping to launch that soon. So do you want to say anything to that yet? Or
I'm just, developing some new work that I'm excited about. And we'll see when it all kind of, takes shape and comes together. I will say, I'll plug this. I'm a member of the Female Design Council, and they a show, it's called Evolve. I'm going to read a little bit because I don't want to get it wrong. It's called Evolved Resolve, and it's part of the LA Design Festival, and it's online, and it's from September 24th to October 23rd. So that's happening now, and I have some work in that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to ask Karen now, but we do have an email, hello@Comm Collective. Oh, one of the Comm people, type it in, because you're welcome to email as a follow-up to this, and I will connect you with everyone on this panel if you would like. Karen, what's happening? You got exhibitions. You got an in-person one coming up. Yeah?
I do. So wait, I have a mural on East Houston and Eldridge downtown, and one in LA. Don't know the address. It's in Silver Lake on Sunset. In a opening this weekend at Project Art Space. If you go to my Instagram page, you have to register for that because it is timed. And I'm in a show coming up on Tuesday at the International Print Center of New York. And there are panel discussions and all kind of things there as well. So, and then there's also all the licensing things, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, that's another conversation.
I love this conversation.
So many more things to talk about, but I feel like we talked about a lot that is actually happening right now. And you guys are all so just fonts of knowledge and inspiration, and I really could continue to talk to you guys for a lot longer, but we are in fact out of time. But I do want to say that the email for Comm Collective is hello@commcollective.org. So please do reach out. I will keep an eye for your emails, and I will connect you with everyone here. And gosh, thanks guys. I really enjoyed it. I was very nervous, but you were all so wonderful and really made it a great conversation. So thank
It was
you.
awesome.
I'll be
Yeah,
back.
Thank you.
Great. It was nice meeting you, Caroline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can see Karen's work on Artfare and Lisa's work on Uprise. So we come full circle.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank
Well,
you.
It's been awesome.
Ciao. See if I
All
can
right,
figure out how
ladies.
to end this thing.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.